here Ramirez, the founder and moderator of No Echo, a popular, I guess, hardcore punk rock site, and amongst many other titles he holds. So, are you still doing other things like the video directing, like that, or?
Yeah, well, I was never a video director. I work, I produce, so I have been involved in music videos, but I am still doing that.
Mhm.
And we have stuff in development, different stages. But yeah, I'm not a director. Although, it's like music where musicians always feel like they want to be in bands, and bands want, musicians want to be actors. I
Yeah.
think a lot of producers wish they could direct, or they have a secret kind of, or maybe not so secret kind of desire to do that.
Hmm.
The idea of being a director is cool, but the more I've been around people that are doing it, I
Hmm.
realize how much is involved, that some of it is just not for me. But yeah, I produce, and No Echo is like the passion project that I'm trying to always, you know, elevate, get bigger, more
Hmm.
reach, more people, help more people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting time for the site. So I have stuff that I'm planning right now.
Yeah. The part that I really like about your site is a lot of people in all various forms of punk and hardcore, and you just get these interviews that really a lot of people either forgot about or really don't touch on anymore because either they're not regulars in the scene anymore, or it's just maybe for one reason or another the band that they're in currently is not in vogue, and the stuff that you focus on is more, I guess, more about like the prime of their career. So
Yeah.
me a little bit about how you originally got into doing No Echo, because I know we worked together in past projects, but it was a little different. This situation is a little different than past.
Yeah. So I was I've always done writing on the side, like so many people, because
Hmm.
about metal and punk and hardcore, and it's to do that full time is harder than ever. I don't know how many people do that now, but
Yeah.
I always did it as a side thing, going back to doing a zine when I was a kid. But when I moved to LA in '06, I worked in the music business, but I was still writing on the side. And at one point, actually, I did do it full time. I ran a site called Noise Creep, which was part of AOL Music when AOL Music had these music verticals. One was kind of like the indie rock, kind of alternative, pitchfork kind of world. One was country music, one was hip hop. And then Noise Creep was metal, hardcore, punk, all that kind of stuff. So I did run that for a few years, and that was intense, but it was
Yeah.
fun. Any chance to get this, to use the word elevate again, this these worlds is great. And AOL, although it was already late in the game for AOL in the sense of awareness, people were like, AOL, what is that? That's still around, dial up. I still, and I get that, but my thing was always like, they're spending money, like real money, to do this. That's great. Let's that's not something that we should dismiss. And the chance to run it and do it right, and do it from a place of real love for it, was a great opportunity. So I did that, and then they closed down all of their music properties. So I was left, you know, uh, with I didn't have a place to really write anywhere because I wasn't doing freelance stuff. So then I just stopped.
Hmm.
And then a friend of mine, Andrew, who lives in Virginia, he had a site called Aversion Line, where he would cover a lot of obscure 90s hardcore and metal and emo and stuff like that. We became friends just from, I would leave comments on some articles on his site. So
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. That was in the early oh, '06, '07, whatever. So one day we just said, through email, let's start a site where we cover anything we want. And so that's how No Echo started in 2014. He stopped doing it. He didn't want to do it anymore. So he went back to doing his own blogging whenever he felt, the spark of kind of creativity.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it. I wanted to ramp up, actually. So when he stopped doing it, I think like 2 years in or something, or maybe a little longer, I decided let's focus on hardcore because that's underserved
Hmm.
in terms of coverage on websites. And yeah, so it's been that ever since. And that's when it really started taking off more because it's more focused. People could think of no echo. Okay, it's like people think of metal websites. The first thing they think of is Blabbermouth, most likely. So I wanted people to think hardcore. If there is a website, I know people, a lot of people, people ask me, do people read any more websites? So that's a whole other discussion. But I wanted people to think of hardcore. Okay, that's the website, No Echo. I could turn someone onto the site, and you want to look. People, how do you find these bands? Check out No Echo. Most likely they've covered it or they have stuff. Go on that website and you'll dig through and you'll find things. So that's been the mission ever since kind of the retooling of the site after Andrew left, and
Okay.
it's worked.
Yeah, the part that I enjoy reading your site is the bands that you just somehow come across. Because I mean, some of these bands, like I said, like for example, I know it's been a while since you've interviewed them, but like members of Snapcase is a band that's been out of the picture for a while, and then suddenly you get interviews with them, or that's, I mean, even like Vision Disorder, who hasn't really been like an active band. So is this just by chance you just happen to just cross paths with a member, the discussion about talking comes up, or how do you kind of come across like planning who's going to get featured on your site?
Well, some of it's a mixture of if it's a 90s type of situation like a Snapcase or Strife or just an older 90s band or even
Hmm.
earlier. A lot of times because I'm 45 and I've been into this kind of stuff for a long time, it's relationships I have, you know, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're acquaintances, sometimes a friend of a friend, but it'll often be just kind of going back and reconnecting with people that I haven't. That's another thing I love about the site, which is there's, you know, especially if I didn't grow up with them in New York City
Hmm.
or they live here in LA now, what would be the likelihood of, you know, developing a relationship again with someone who I haven't seen since 1994 at some festival? So it's nice to have that kind of reconnection through the site. Uh, they'll email me, they'll message me. Although I'm not a big fan of messaging through social apps, I get sometimes that's the only way people feel like they can.
Hmm.
But a lot of times it's email.
Okay.
Hey, Carlos, you might remember me from X band. We played together maybe when I played in
Yeah.
bands, or whatever. Or you might know the band. I have this new thing I'm doing, or we're doing that band again. We're doing a release, or sometimes it's I'm going through a rabbit hole of listening to an older, like I find a band that I haven't listened to in a while, and then I start listening to that, and then I start thinking about that. So then the next morning I'll just reach out to them. Hey, I'll find someone in the band somehow,
Hmm.
and hey, let's do some kind of retrospective thing and just talk about the band. And usually the people are like fired up, like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then the way I look at that is, if there's going to be some kid who just discovered, let's say, today we posted an interview with Crud as a Cult. Crud as a Cult was obscure, even for
Hmm.
obscure standards in the 90s. But the guys, a couple of them went on to Ink and Dagger, which was way more well known.
Hmm.
Um, the way I look at it is, if some kid discovered Crud as a Cult somehow
Hmm.
on YouTube or wherever, they go online, they Google it. I want there to be some kind of link to a history lesson on the band.
Yeah.
And if we can come up on the SEO on Google, search engine optimization, for people that don't know what SEO is. If,
Yeah.
if, if you Google something and a No Echo article appears for a band, I'm not talking about Earth Crisis or some bigger hardcore band, Agnostic Front. I mean the lesser known bands. Then I feel like we've accomplished something, because they can go to this link, they can find out about the band. There's links to music, there's embedded videos, there's history, there's photos, and they can walk away after reading that and going, oh, I know now a lot about this band.
Yeah.
And it's not just piecemeal, or it's not kind of rumor. It's coming from someone in the band or members of the band. So I love that. I know when I find something like that online, I stumble upon an artist I never heard of or don't know much about, and I click a link to an interview, some kind of feature on the band. I love that.
Yeah.
It's better than Wikipedia usually.
Yeah, definitely. So,
yeah, it's done right.
And the other thing is, it's like, I know the whole premiere game when it comes to sites, it's kind of like, I guess it's a battle of trying to get the publicists to premiere somebody's song, but a lot of music on there that even, I don't know if they're necessarily name bands, but even it features members of bands that, maybe we forgot about. And I remember a while ago you had a band, I think, that featured members of Shutdown, was a band that probably a lot of people forgot they existed from.
Right.
They broke up a while ago, and it's kind of cool kind of revisiting some of these bands. So what are some of the bands that you reconnected with from that era that you may have forgotten about, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know they were doing this, or they came back? Something that you've unearthed recently.
Wow, putting me on the spot. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to answer your question, but this is how my mind works.
Mm-hmm.
I like to post stuff on the Noacco Instagram. The Noacco Instagram isn't just like, here's something we posted today. I try to not do that often.
Yeah.
Just kind of post photos, new and old bands. But I was looking I have a folder of stuff that photographers or friends send me. Hey, if you ever want to post photos on your Instagram, here are some photos. So I have a folder on my desktop of just tons of cool images that I like to share. And one of them was recently, it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, I posted, and I just found it in that folder. I'm like, oh, let me post this photo. And people were responding to the photo, like saying, oh my God, I haven't thought about this band in a while. And writing, kind of like their memories of the last time they saw them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what was going on in my head. And that was the band Ashes. I use that as an example because Ashes, most people don't know, even people that were around back then probably wouldn't remember Ashes.
Mm-hmm.
But the few that do, really do. And that's another itch that I like scratching. So that's an example. Ashes, people from Ashes went on to be in a ton of bands, and most well known would be McTiernan, who went on to become a successful producer working with bands like Thrice. So that's an example. Ashes. That's perfect. That aligns so well with kind of like my age group that I'm in and that era. And if it weren't for Noacco and there were a lot of bands like that where I would forget. It keeps me thinking of stuff to, hey, let's highlight this again. And the hope is always that someone younger who never heard of this band will go, what is this? Let me check this photo, like Ashes. People are responding to this. Why? What is this? And they'll, now you can just go on YouTube. It's great. I remember when we were kids, both of us, you would look at band t-shirts on collages, on thrash albums. Like, what is Die Cruisin'? What does that say? Or, or even more, for me at least, it was a lot of like thrash logos, which weren't like black metal and death metal logos. They usually had just like sharp ends and you could read them. I feel bad for people into stuff now. It's like you can't even read the logo. So how do you even Google that, right? But I like that. I like the idea that people will look at an image and be intrigued by it enough to just start digging. And they have now all these things where they can find music immediately. It's mind-blowing.
Okay. So being that you've been doing Noacco for a few years now, and then in the past with, like you said, with an established site like Noise Creep, like where do you see like like music media going? Because I mean, obviously, the big budgeted sites like what you mentioned,
Yeah.
maybe with the exception of someone like Pitchfork, they have some kind of financiers that probably is unreachable for most sites. But do you see like where do you see these kind of the music media going from here? Do you think it's more like the fan based people that are creating like niche I guess content, or do you see it going kind of more the YouTube direction, or where do you see it going?
I think YouTube and podcasting,
Hmm.
and that's speaking from someone who doesn't, I don't do those. I do a website, an old
Hmm.
fashioned website at this point, old fashioned. Uh, I think people, um, yeah, I hate to say it, people don't have the attention span to read. They rather just put something on and listen in the background, or if it's YouTube, you know, sit there and watch and listen. That is the future. I think it's tough for people have asked me, why don't you run ads? It's not that I don't want to make money on the site, and that's something that I'm working on, actually, making some money on the site. It's that with, you know, people think that metal websites don't have, uh, if you're to get advertising, it's a numbers game. So, and an
Yeah.
audience, people think the metal audience isn't marketably desirable, right? Forget about hardcore. That's even like, they don't even know what hardcore is. At
Yeah.
least with heavy metal, they have something they associate with. Oh, Satan, long hair girls, Motley Crue, Iron, whatever it is, Kiss, whatever they
Yeah.
think heavy metal is. They don't even know what hardcore is. So who's going to advertise with no echo where it would make, where, like an ad network? I tried. I reached out to a friend who runs an ad network, and he's just like, I don't think it would be a fit for us.
Hmm.
On a kiss off, but that was years ago. Um, I think that for a site like No Echo to make money is Patreon.
Yeah.
Asking the readers, and I'm going to find that out soon because I'm going to launch one, and I'm trying to make it interesting with extra stuff, not paywalls, more merch,
Hmm.
limited edition zines, stickers, stuff that ephemera that I think hardcore kids, people, I say
Hmm.
kids, hardcore fans uh, live for.
Yeah.
I don't collect vinyl, even though I highlight vinyl collectors because I think it's interesting. Uh, people ask me, "Can I send you my vinyl?" And I always tell them, "Don't do that. Don't waste money. I know it's expensive. If you want to send me something, a T-shirt would be great because I wear
Yeah.
T-shirts on a daily basis." But I know people love collecting. I'm a big book collector. I have
Okay.
I mean, music books of all genre. I have a huge library in my house, so that's my thing. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do with the No Echo Patreon when we launch it is have merch in there, limited edition stuff that if you're a supporter, you'll have access to. I think that's the way to go. It'll be interesting to see how many people actually support the site. I hope there's a lot of goodwill for the site. We've covered so many bands, so many labels through the years. Um, if everyone just donated $2 a month, that would be great. That would go
Yeah.
far. But again, asking people to do that, even there's a psychological kind of block, because if you ask someone spend $2-3 one month to buy something like a soda or a coffee, it's that kind of thing people always say. It's like costs more, less than a cup of coffee to support something you love. I think most people would say, no problem, here you go. But the idea of putting in their info and having it just either laziness or they're weary of doing that online. I don't know what it is. I always yearly donate a few bucks to Wikipedia,
Yeah.
$10, because I use Wikipedia daily. Just
Yeah.
I would do that anyway. I just love Wikipedia for all its faults, Um, but I think people don't do it on Patreon for things they like sometimes because I don't know, there's such like a block there. I'm hoping that people will see that we post so much content, and we are trying to uh, you know shine a light on old and new and old, mostly
Yeah.
new. I hope that people that love the site will say, hey, you know what? I don't mind donating a couple of bucks a month, and if they want to donate a little more, there's this cool t-shirt. There's this zine that only exists for the Patreon, pledgers. We'll see, we'll see. Hopefully I'm not getting my hopes really high, but I hope I'm surprised. I hope people really step it up. Be nice, because I put a lot of time into it, and then people who write for the site all do it volunteer. We all do it volunteer, but it would be nice to make some money doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I know you said you don't have a podcast, but do you see you doing that of any sort in the near future?
Well,
video thing, or
someone had I met with someone, a friend of mine here in Southern California, who pitched me the idea of doing a no echo branded podcast. He wanted to do one and use no echo as kind of like the platform, since there was an audience already to do it. I was open to the idea. We met, and then it just kind of fell apart. And this person has since moved on and is doing their own podcast, another podcast, which is great. Okay. Great that they continue to do it. It just didn't work out with us, and that's fine. I'm very picky about it. If someone's going to do it, or I'm going to do it, it'd have to be I'm a stickler for that kind of thing. I don't want it to look and sound a certain way. So that's why I haven't done it. I decided, there's so many other hardcore podcasts. So let them do their thing. And I support those. We often highlight podcasts. I don't have the time to highlight all of them because there are so many now. But if one of the contributors that writes for the site says, hey, there's this podcast, and they reached out to me, or I stumbled upon it, I'd like to cover it, go ahead. I haven't said no to any of them. So I've just stayed away from it because I'm very picky about it, and it's just so much that I have to put into it for no money, quite frankly, that I already do that with the site. So I don't have the bandwidth to spend a lot of time on something for no money. If someone came to me and said, hey, we're a skateboard company or a clothing company, Liquid Death, the water company, and they said, we want to co-brand a No Echo podcast, we're going to give you this amount of money, and or we have these facilities where you can work out of, then that's different. So we'll see. I've been on podcasts, I've been interviewed for some, and when Noise Creep was around, we had the Creep Show for a while, and where they would do out of the New York City studio, really beautiful pro studios. They did that for a while, but when I took over Noise Creep, they stopped doing it because of the budget or whatever. I love the idea. I listen to podcasts daily. Not hardcore ones, really, not music, some music ones. I listen to the Bob Lefseth one because I love him. Some true crime ones, but there are so many hardcore podcasts right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess
varying degrees of quality, if I'm being honest, but I'll support all of them.
Yeah, I mean, you have such awesome interviews. It would be cool to have a visual next to it, just so you kind of get the feel of what's going on around you. So,
what I would love to, and I've said this before, I would love to do video interviews where it's more of lifestyle-y, where it's the person, I'm hanging out with them, we're shooting them hanging out in their environment, walking around in the studio at their home, even more interesting than a studio, in my book. We did one with Scott from Terror a couple of years back, and that was fun. It's just, I have to find someone who's willing to spend the time with me to edit it, shoot it, again, I'm very picky about it. It'd have to look a certain way. That's why I haven't done it. We'll see. My goal in next year is to get the Patreon. That's starting sooner than later, but get that. Hopefully that starts helping. And if some money could come in, I could spend some budget on doing video. I think it would go far. I think people in the hardcore scene would love to watch content like that if it's done like that, because there's not much of it. It's usually live videos, like stuff Sonny does at 856. He does all those great multi-camera video, performance, whether it's a live show or like Stud now, he's doing the streaming in studio. kind of content, that's unbelievable. But I think there is room for more, lifestyle-y kind of interviews. I say lifestyle, meaning, not just a person in a room interviewing someone one shot. I mean, edits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. For example, since you have a connection to Beowulf and the Venice scene, I would love to go hang out with, let's say, with one of the guys from Beowulf, and we walk around and he shows me all these, these specific spots. Oh, that used to be a place we'd hang out. It was a bar. Now it's a vegan coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
Which is very Venice. But that kind of thing, I would love that, and I think people, if you're in Germany and you're a fan, you're like, oh shit, this is so cool,
Yeah.
I say Venice because I'm here in Southern California, but man, I would love to do that. I would love to hang out with people and not just talk music, talk about the environment that they grew up in or live in. That kind of thing is cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess moving along, I guess we can talk about how you got into the music business. I know you dabbled with a lot of different things aside from writing. I mean, you had your stint doing marketing and PR.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you were involved with video content creation. So did all those things pretty much lead to the next step, or how did you stumble into all that? Because I know prior to that you had your little stint also as a musician.
Right. In terms of work and getting into the music business, not playing in bands, it was an internship at Roadrunner that I got through Sophie Diamantis.
Okay.
I'm sure you remember her.
Yeah.
I just called her, got the phone number from a record, probably King Diamond then or something, if going back, it was when I did the internship, it was 90, I think end of 93 or 94.
Okay.
And I got an internship, and it was one of those things where she needed help. It was her, Sue Marcus was the other publicist right next to her. And Sophie said to me, you won't be getting coffee because we're so busy. I need you to do other stuff. That's busy work, but it'll be helpful for you. And I remember your name on the list of publicists because your name sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
It's very distinct, especially for someone in New York. We're not used to those kinds of, at least back then, right?
Yeah.
So I remember your name. I remember Rennie Starkweather.
Yeah.
Certain names stick out because they're distinct. But I would get a list of publicists. I'm sorry, a list of writers, regional. And the first tour I worked on was a Type O Negative tour for Bloody Kisses. And she would say, okay, call these, call these people up, see if they want to go to the show. They're going to be in their market. And that's how I started. It was just really just start doing it.
Yeah.
And so that was really a great way to learn how things worked. I was very naive. I thought everyone that worked at Roadrunner would be long hair. They would be into talking about, they'd be into talking about, obscure metal. Like, you know, one of the guys that worked there managed Dark Angel.
Oh, wow.
And I was very excited about that. Scott Gibbons. And I remember, naively, again, going up to him and asking about it. He was just like looking at me like, get away from me, It was very just like that kid going into it and like in a movie. And it's like, oh my God, look at the halls, the posters of these bands, of Obituary, of Sepultura, of, King Diamond, and being like, wow. But learning that just because you work at a record label doesn't mean that that person's a super fan of said genre or said label's roster. It's a job. Now, if you're working at an indie, back then at least, you're going to get less bullshit people. At least you're going to get some cooler people. So I'm not going to say that everyone at Roadrunner was disappointing me that way. That's not true. But there were people there that I remember one person was like you can tell they had no idea about metal. They were into Rodan and fucking, Polvo and Flint. And they didn't give a shit about Machine Head, let's say. Machine Head had just gotten signed, I think. I was naive to that. I had this idealistic thing, like people that are going to work at Roadrunner are going to be all these just like super nerds. And there were some, but not as many as I thought there would be. So that was my way in. And then through the years, I worked at digital marketing agencies. I worked at a major label. I worked at Universal Music Group for a while out here. It was always just, I've never been a great networker for career kind of stuff, which, sucks. It'd be great if I was a great networker. I know it's uncool to say that, but it really, I've learned the hard way. Networking for your career is the best thing you can do. If you could make friends with people and not rub them the wrong way and be professional, and they have you in their mind for a job, that is the best thing you can do for yourself. I am a person that's well connected, meaning I know tons of people from tons of different scenes of music, mostly music. So I know that I'm not some weirdo that can't make friends and connect with people. But for some reason, when it comes to career stuff, I've never been the kind of person to sell myself that well. Personally, my personal brand, which is so now, like I'm not a LinkedIn expert. I've tried to do that, and there's some kind of disconnect. I don't know what it is, but I have no problem talking to people, and people reach out to me for help, and I don't mind helping them. And I've connected people for jobs, so it's something that I can't really give advice on, the networking side of it. I'm not good at it for my own personal career thing, which now it's like you have to be a marketer for yourself. And with social media and some of it, I am very turned off by that sometimes. Certain people, and maybe that's what it is. I don't know, subconsciously. But in terms of the jobs I've had in the music industry, where I was actually making a living with music, which always blew my mind. Like, wow, I'm getting paid. I remember being in we lived before we lived here. We lived in we bought a place, a condo in the neighborhood here in Sherman Oaks, and I remember sitting there one day with my wife, and I was working. Doing the noise creep, the AOL stuff. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe that I helped buy this place by writing about, deicide. You know what I mean? Like, that's like mind blowing to me. Never thought that would happen, later on in my life. But anytime you can make a living with this stuff, it's almost like a racket. It's almost like you want to keep, shh, don't tell anyone, it's rare. And I don't make a living doing it right now at all. Like I said, I don't make any money from No Echo. It's just a hobby that I am type A personality. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be full on, over the top, to my detriment sometimes, to my mental detriment. That's why it feels like it's a full-time thing, which is, that's why, if I could make money doing it, it'd be great. If I could make money, start paying people, even if it's a little bit of money, to bigger features. That'd be a dream.
Okay. And then, like we mentioned earlier, you're involved in creating with the team, making music videos. Is that right? You're on the producing side, or?
Yeah, well, I have a partner, and we work with a bigger production company, television production company, and we help develop stuff for them.
Okay.
My partner edits episodes of shows that they have on the air, because he's an editor and a director, so he can do that technical stuff that I can't. I wish I could. I know how to do basic string outs and edits and things like that, but not on the level that they would need. But so we do that. We do video content for brands, short form stuff, for beer brand, for example. Music videos we don't really do, because they usually don't have a budget. They can find somebody, kid, who will shoot it, edit it, and do everything, and do a good job, and do it really cheap. So that's that kind of thing. So we have done music videos, but it's it's not really something that my partner especially is that hot on, because of the money. It's not. It's just a lot of work for something that he's not passionate about. If it were up to me, I'd say I would, which was I've said no to people that have asked even recently, because the budget is so small that I would, if it was just me, I'd say, yeah, let's do it. And you know what? We'll make a few bucks. It won't be much, but it'll be fun. He doesn't look at it that way. He's just not,
Oh, okay.
he's not into, you know, hardcore metal punk. He's not into that. So to him, it's just like, you know what? I don't need to do it. And it's just not going to really do much for me. And that goes back to making the video content for No Echo. If I had someone who looks at it like the way I do, let's do it. It'll be fun. It's going to be man hours, but maybe it'll develop into something bigger. Maybe we'll start getting some views. Maybe we'll make some money. But I haven't found that person. I've had people who've reached out to me and they just kind of fall off. But yeah, I would. We did a body count video, which was really fun, and that was through Mike Gitter at Century Media. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you know, it's the budgets for these videos aren't big enough really to warrant my partner to want to do it. You know, he doesn't come from the DIY world. He doesn't care.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of you said you worked on commercials. Like what kind of stuff have you done in the past?
The kind of stuff you watch on YouTube where you're like ready to forward. You know, when it's a skip a video, those like
okay,
that short form. Spanish language TV commercials, things like that.
Okay.
Because my partner used to work in that world. He used to work at TV channel in Miami. He's from there, so he had connections in that world. So hey, you know, we both speak Spanish, or we can do it. So done that. Did some stuff for Pabst, the beer company.
Okay.
So we've worked with some brands there. Yeah. So, you know, we'll do anything, any you know, any brand that would want to do it. But there's so many that is so tough to get into. It's really tough to get into to the point where you're just doing that nonstop. There's so much competition because of technology being so easy now. You know, people undercut. They're going to do it cheaper and cheaper. And if you're younger and you're living in an apartment in Silver Lake and you have 3 roommates and you don't have to worry about, you know, the money isn't really the issue. It's just the opportunity. I can't compete with that. Yeah,
that's true.
You know, I would a lot of times do that because my thing is show and prove. Sounds like I'm throwing my partner under the bus, but he's coming in from a different kind of angle. He's been doing this work forever. He's never done anything else. So he's like, I'm worth this. Like I've shot this. I've directed this before. I've edited this. You know, major TV shows. Like I'm not going to do some hardcore band's video and their budget is like 2,000, you know, or 15, whatever it is. You know, well, but it'll only take a day, and we can. Nah, I'm not my thing. You know, the body count thing there was a budget. It wasn't huge, but there was a budget, and it also helps because it's iced tea. And so my partner was like, "Oh, that's cool, iced tea. That's fun." You know, I know, I love iced tea.
Okay.
You know, he doesn't know who Scott Vogel is. He doesn't know who Mike Muir is even. You know, so it's different.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I've encountered that with other people too, so I get it. I mean, it different strokes for different folks. I guess so. And then I know in your past life you had a little stint playing in bands. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your dabble in that world?
Yeah, I played in bands since junior high school, just different garage bands like anyone else would. Some of those people have gone on or went on to play in bigger bands. The guy I started playing with, Carlos Stengler, went on to be in Interpol. So of all my friends from you know, my teenage years, he's the guy who went biggest in music. You know, he played The Garden, he played Radio City Music Hall. I mean, massive. So always happy to talk about his success because so proud. But we started playing together in a band when I was in 8th grade. He was a freshman in high school, and We started, it was like an MOD type band, silly songs, short songs. And then little by little, started getting better at the instruments and all of that, like anyone else. And then the first band to actually record, make records and tour was Black Army Jacket in 1996 it started, or 95. And did that for a few years, toured a ton. We got Dave Whitty in the band, who was a friend from the death metal scene that I was very involved with before. We did a lot of cool things, things I never thought I would be able to do, like tour and make T-shirts and just things like that. And then after that, I played in a band called Lakota, which is melodic rock, kind of like Foo Fighters, Sugar, that kind of thing. Just melodic, but some kick to it. Did that for a few years. Made a record with Jamie Wolford, who was in the band The Stereo, and really fun. Got to tour a bunch. We did tours with Further Seems Forever. The guitarist from that band put out our album, so there's a connection there. Again, hardcore scene kind of connection.
Okay.
And then after that, I've played in a few other bands. I played in a project called Deny the Cross, which is straight up just grind stuff. And that was with Dave Whitty, who's now in Municipal Waste.
Yeah.
And Dan from Spaz was in that project. So we did a record. We did an album on Tank Crimes in 2016. And that was the last thing I did. But again, it goes back to the people that I met through Black Army Jacket, through Lakota even, and through everything I've done, even the ones I haven't mentioned, that really, they were just small, quick things. They are a lot of times lifelong connections, friends, and I just don't, I guess people that are, maybe people that grow up playing sports seriously. I mean, I played sports, but I mean seriously play sports. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have the same kind of story. Maybe they have these lifelong connection because you share this obsession with something. I'm talking about obsession. I am obsessed with music, right? Like you are. So maybe it's the same for other things. But at our wedding, I remember we were literally up right before we started doing the vows and all that stuff. And I looked to the room, and most of the people in there were there in some way because of music.
Okay.
Incredible. Whether I played in a band with them, or I admired their band, or we worked at a label together, or something. It's just unbelievable. And for me, very touching, because in my family, it was an uphill battle. That's a waste of time. Why would you, who are you writing these letters to? Why are you looking at the mail room, the mailbox? Why do you have these posters of these guys in your wall? Don't you want to have posters of women in your? My father, macho Latino. Why don't you have posters of bikini chicks? It's like, because that's, who cares about that? They're nice to look at, but I want to see people that inspire me. But they look like losers, and they have long hair, and they had tattoos. Back then, it's so taboo. In the 80s. But no, man, this is it. This is, so being in that room and seeing, I was right.
Yeah. I got the grief from my parents, like, why are you stealing my stamps? It's like, who are you writing?
Yeah. Which is, think about it. Are your parents immigrants?
My mom, yes. My dad was from here, so.
Okay. Well, my parents were both immigrants. They never wrote letters when they were, little teenagers to people in New York or in Oslo, and here I'm like, no, I'm writing letters to people. Do you know them? How do you know them? Like, what do you, they didn't get it,
Yeah. But, and then I used to get the strange phone call. It was like, you got a phone call from fill in the blank country. And they're like, and they're wondering, well, how the hell did you know somebody from when you've never been there? I'm like,
and why would they want to talk to you? Like, you're just some schmuck, and you're like, because I don't know, because I do a zine, or I don't know, I ordered their demo and I wrote them a letter. Back to what you just said, interesting. This happened at Roadrunner. I think it happened the week I started interning there. Our seats are the way where the publicity department, really, it was just some cubicles, was really close to the reception area. And the woman answered the phone, Roadrunner. And then she goes, okay, may I ask who's calling? And then I'm listening. For some reason, I'm listening. And she goes, okay, 1 second. She presses the button and goes, Monty Connor, A&R legend, Monty, King is on the phone for you. And then you hear him go, okay, put him through. And I'm like, that's King Diamond. King Diamond just called the receptionist to speak to Monty Connor. And I'm like, dreams do come true.
Yeah.
It was huge for me, you know, King Diamond calling, and he uses the name King.
Yeah. Are there any other projects that you're working on that you haven't mentioned yet, or that's coming up?
No, just the Patreon. Sorry, if you hear that sound, that's my Ring app outside. But the Patreon, working on that now as we speak, waiting on a design thing from someone. Launch that. We'll see what happens. Maybe more will come out of that project-wise. Maybe some interesting one-offs. I am doing a zine for it. And I haven't done a zine since I was like 17 years old, so it'll be fun to do that again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I'm doing that. Outside of that, for my career, the other thing, there's a series or a limited series that hopefully will get the green light, fingers crossed, a documentary thing that I can't get specifics about, but hopefully that goes.
Okay.
And outside of that, now just, you know, hopefully get more people to write for No Echo that want to contribute, and, you know, get voices in there that are not mine. Always nice to have that, and to keep, you know, people engaged with what's going on. There's so much noise and it's hard to get noticed. So if No Echo could help a band, you know, spread the word about their demo or their EP, and they don't have a label and they don't have a PR person helping them, that's a home run.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find social media or otherwise?
Well, No Echo has an Instagram page, a Twitter, a Facebook, on those 3 platforms. So you could find us easily there. If you ever want to reach out to me directly, you could just email me at carlos@noecho.net. If you want to pitch me something, if you want to contribute, if you just want to say hello, and if anything you want to ask me about, I'm always game, and I love connecting with people, especially if they're a fellow diehard music geek like me. So yeah, carlos@noecho.net. Better to pitch me through that than through the direct messaging thing, only because there's so much there. I get a ton of those, tons. I get a ton of emails pitching me. I can't get to everything. I try. That's why it would be great to have even more contributors to kind of just take the load off a bit. But I try my best to get back to people, because as someone who used to do publicity, I understand how frustrating it is when you pitch or you email pitch someone and they don't get back to you. I've been there. I know. I try, but I still fail at it sometimes, but I try.